Yeah. Hello and welcome to Military Mantra. In this interview, we have today Captain Vineet Koka, who have served the Indian Armed Forces. And in this interview, we'll try to understand his journey of joining Indian Army, life within Indian Army in the Parachute Regiment, and various life lessons that he has learned over his service. So welcome, sir, and thank you for coming on this interview today.
Hey, thanks, Akash. Thanks for taking out time for me. Wonderful meeting you. Yeah.
Sir, if you could, tell us, how did your journey of joining the Indian Armed Forces and the Parachute Regiment started, and what motivated you back then to join the forces?
Right. So actually, unlike a lot of other people, I was not very keen on joining army in my initial days or in my younger days because my father and mother both were army officers. My father retired as a colonel, and my mother also retired as a colonel from AMC. She was a doctor. So I was born and brought up in the army environment, and uh, you know uh, till my almost graduation days, I was very keen on doing something like an MBA, or doing something which is more on the corporate side. But uh, my mother was posted in MH Belgaum, and Belgaum is a hub to infantry, and you have the commando course which happens there. There's junior leaders wing. So when I was there in Belgaum those 3 years, I met with a lot of army officers, especially from the infantry. That changed my mindset very quickly, and I got really fascinated with army, especially serving the infantry. And I used to meet a lot of young officers. They used to come for their commandos, commando course, and I had the fortune to meet them, and that's where I decided. I think so. It was during my graduation, second year and third year. I thought, yeah, this is something which is more exciting, and I finally decided to join the army. Yeah.
Sir, you would have gone through, the CDS entry, right? So you would
Right.
have gone to the SSB as well. So if you could briefly tell us, how was your SSB experience back then? How did you prepare? And what would you suggest to the aspirants who are, aspiring to join the armed forces and, going to appear for SSB?
Yeah. So I think so. I was pretty, I was in the second year of my graduation when I decided that I'm going to join army. I knew everything about how to join army because, as I told you, from my initial childhood days, I have been in the army environment. So I knew the basics, that how you need to prepare for SSB, especially the CDS examination. Second is I knew what is SSB. It's not something which can be taken easily because there is nothing like a correct formula. Indian Army is one of the only services or organizations where SSB is pretty tricky. There's nothing like you're very good and you're super confident that you will crack through SSB, because a lot of people who are very amazing, who have done outside, wonders outside, they have uh, built careers in the corporate world, in finance, in HR, in marketing, have not been able to crack SSB. So I knew about how to prepare for it. One is I did understand from many people who had gone for SSB before. And second is, there were that time, I don't know now it happens or not, that time there were some formal coachings which used to happen for SSB. So I'd gone to Delhi, especially. I spent about 10 days there, 10 days or 15 days, I don't remember. And I went through this solid 15 days or coaching through in one of the academies. It was an ex retired colonel. His name was Kansi. Uh, so, and I did a coaching there, and then I went for my SSB, and I was pretty well prepared. Yeah. See, there are some set standard preparations you can do in terms of how you can prepare for an interview. But in terms of tips for SSB, my suggestion would be you need to be very upfront and very candid about what you are, and you should be confident about why you want to join the army, the reasons to join. So it has to be a very straightforward approach. You cannot be someone and try to pretend to be someone. So it's better that you kind of take an very different and a very straightforward approach, that is, be yourself. So my suggestion would be you should be very, very open about you and your personality. One. Second is you need to be very positive, because I think so in SSB they look at positivity a lot, because in army you are put into a lot of adverse situations multiple times, where the only thing which can get you out of there is positivity. And third is you have to be confident, because they are looking for somebody who is confident and mature, who can handle situations and a lot of troops in very difficult situations, right? So you, if as a young officer, you need to have these three qualities: upfront, confident, and very positive.
Got
Or
it.
maybe I have not put the order right: upfront and open, very positive and confident. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, within SSB circles, there is a term called OLQ, officer-like qualities, that is being used. There are 15 OLQs which everybody keeps on talking about. What is your perspective about it? Do they exist or do they get developed over the training time, or people come with those 15 OLQs? So, what is your perspective about those officer-like qualities?
In fact, I have a very confused view on this officer-like qualities. I've heard a lot about this OLQs. What's an officer-like quality? But honestly, because I've been all my life in the army and I served myself in the army for about 7 years, there's nothing like an officer-like quality. Basically, you need to be a very good, humble, and a straightforward human being. You don't if you are, I mean, I'll tell you what are not officer like qualities. If you're very over smart, you're trying to always look for a shortcut, you're not straightforward with people, you are not helpful to people, you are not a team player, you know you are not a person who respects others, you're a person who doesn't value others opinion. That's something which is something which you should not do, right? And that's what becomes an officer like quality. So ideally every person who has had good grooming and who has a good positive outlook towards life has an officer like qualities. They have officer like qualities. But the day you start differing as a human being, like you're trying to take advantage of others, you're not being straightforward, you're lying, you're not being humble, you're not helpful. So those are automatically qualities which come out in a SSB. Maybe in a normal interview they may not come out, but SSB is a very tough process where 3-4 days they test you on psychology, and so maybe these qualities come out very inherently if a person is having them in a negative way.
Correct.
So, but there's nothing like, I strongly believe there's nothing like an officer like quality, that okay,
Mhm.
these are the 5 qualities you need to become an officer. There's nothing like that.
Mhm.
You need to be a straightforward and a nice human being who's always positive, helpful. And once you join the academy, army as an organization or an institution develops this officer like qualities within you, like qualities like courage, qualities like being very, very upfront, you know qualities like accepting your mistakes. So
Mhm.
these are some qualities which get developed. So if you are from the beginning a very, very different person, I mean, who has uh, not officer, not good human being qualities, then maybe you get rejected, right? Because
Mhm.
it comes out in your interview, right?
Correct.
uh,
Yeah.
so that's all about OLQs. I think that it's just a word which is overhyped, I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sir, you spoke about the academy life and how it trains a young guy into a men. So if you could tell us your experience in the officer training academy, how was it? Any memorable instance that you would like to share?
Yeah, there are so many of them. When I joined the academy, I was not even 20 years old. So I was one of the youngest guys to join, OTA. And when I joined the OTA, from day one, I thought that I knew everything about army. It's going to be a piece of cake for me. But, the day one you land in the academy, you come to know that this is a different ball game. It's very difficult. And there are so many experiences. It starts from day one when we were first termers, and suddenly our seniors came back from some camp, and we were all lined up at night 10:30, and the seniors started mentally questioning us, not physically. And that mentally, when they started questioning us that, what's your name, what background you come from, and they made us go through some series of, question answers and stuff like that. So uh, one or two of my batchmates fainted. It was such a tough night, the first night itself. And it was not actually, if you look back to it, it was a very normal thing, like, they being tough with us, making us do some exercises. But since it was the first day, it was like two of them could not take it, and they kind of fainted. Others were very worried. The second, of course, I remember is that, uh, the day one you landed, it was like you feel that you're going to become an officer, but they immediately make you sit in a, in a Shaktiman. You're taken out in the academy, and they make you change in the garden. That means you all are in your civil dresses. They make you change on the hot road in the garden to your formal, dress of the academy, and then you report to various places, like to which company are you going to get allocated. So it's like a chaos, right? It's like so busy, and every day an academy was not a easy day for me. I mean, I consider my academy training more tougher than commando course, or even para provision and other kind of trainings I've done. Because every day, one, you're in a new environment, and every day you're going through a very, very tightly, you know fitted schedule. And on top of that, you have seniors who bunch into your extra time, or who munch into your extra time. So it was a tough time. And some of the camps, like there's a camp Chaturvedi, in which you need to run 40 kilometers back with your, you know with your all your equipment and load. And it was hot like crazy, and we took a wrong route somewhere. So and then, when we came back, you know it was like, maybe we were competing for a position, and we were somewhere third or fourth. So academy was overall very tough. To me, still, till date, I have done all the toughest courses of Indian Army, and I've done all of them, whether it's commandos, HAWS, para provision, and other kind of courses like diving course. But still, when I look back, I definitely would, grade academy training was the toughest thing I've done in Indian Army. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, if you could also tell us, your journey after Officer Training Academy to, joining the Parachute Regiment. So how did you decide to join the paras, and, how was your journey in between that?
Right. So in the Officers Training Academy, I was very clear that I joined Army because I wanted to join infantry, because that was what motivated me to join Army, because my mother was posted in Belgaum, in the military hospital. That's where I saw what infantry is all about, what commando course is all about. So obviously in academy I opted for infantry. So I had opted for paras, but there were only few vacancies which come in para. And even at that time, now it seems para is always oversubscribed. That means if there are 5 seats of or vacancies of para, there are 15 optees. But that time also, in our batch, the para was oversubscribed. I mean, there were more optees than the vacancies. So I didn't get para in first shot from the academy. So I got 5 Assam. It's the 5th Battalion, the Assam Regiment. Again, a very decorated and a very nice battalion. And I served about 2 years in Assam Regiment, and in the Chinese border, and then I came back to Punjab with them, and then I opted for Parachute Regiment once again. And then when I opted for paras, then I got my call from 7 para. I did my provision. So it was like a difficult journey for me going into paras, because I had to wait a lot. Because in the academy I was not able to join paras despite opting. And then after I joined infantry, you know I was having a very good tenure with Fire Assam, my parent battalion. And from there, when you opt for paras, it's again a long process. It's not that, because there are so many, there are shortage of officers everywhere. There's so much work an infantry battalion is supposed to do. So not everybody is ready to relieve you. They're not saying, okay, you can go and opt, right? So it takes its own time, and was a very difficult and a long wait. But finally, I was happy that at least I got an opportunity and I was able to go for my provision. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, if you could also tell us, your experience within the probation which you underwent for 7 para, and also if you can put light on why Parachute Regiment becomes so special that it gets oversubscribed as well at the academy.
Right. So that's a very difficult question to answer, because till the time you have not experienced that, right, you will not be able to understand why provision is so difficult to do. As I told you, if you remember, I mentioned that my academy time was the most difficult training I did. But the good thing was that I was always doing the training with my bunch of my buddies or my course mates. So however difficult things are, you feel that okay, you're doing it part of a group. Now when I went for paras, provision, one was I was already a captain by that time. So you're settled down into the army, you've already done your courses like commandos, horse. I got instructor grading and all the courses, and I was like the adjutant of my battalion. So from there, suddenly, where you're at such a powerful position like an adjutant, where you're managing one of the, you're like the right hand of the commanding officer, suddenly going for para provision, where you start again from zero. Like the day I landed in Agra, I was asked to change my dress in the Agra station, in the railway station. I was asked to wear my combat, and I was made to you know uh, run about 5 to 10 kilometers with my full battle load and my AK-47 and things like that. So it's again a sudden gear change. And para provision varies from a battalion to battalion. So every battalion has their own process where they test you, and it's very difficult, to say the least. Is that because one, everybody is looking at you, and they're looking at you from a big question mark, that are you good enough to join us? Okay, that itself puts you under a lot of pressure. Second is, when you land there, you feel that para but shoot regiment is the elite, because it's all about fitness, it's all about weapon training, it's all about doing different things at a new level altogether than the normal infantry battalions, right? And then you're supposed to do everything alone, and it's a never ending day. Starts at morning 4, it ends at 11 at night. Also, you cannot sleep well because there's somebody or the other calling you and giving you some additional tasks and responsibilities. And it's pretty long, right? I mean, imagine doing this day in and day out for 1 month. It's not 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then 6 months. So on an average, an officer gets selected for the parachute regiment or clears his provision between a duration of 3 months to 6 months. So doing all that continuously alone for 3 months, and it's at another level together. Like in commandos, if you run 40 kilometers, here you have to run like 110, kilometers, right? In commandos, if you are doing, you do your BPT, that's the battle physical efficiency test, 5 kilometers 2 times. Here you have to do almost, I don't know, countless times. So it's at another level of physical stress, and more that physical is still okay. There is a term which we use in parachute regiment, which is mental toughness. Are you mentally tough to keep going on, despite so many, adversities, despite doing it alone, despite the complete ecosystem being so, so neutral towards you. I would not use the word negative, but they're very neutral. They're like, they don't appreciate you. They're like, okay, we just want to see how much more you have. And it's really tough. That's why it's one of the best battalions, and it's one of the best regiments of Indian Army, right? So
Hmm.
it's not easy wearing that maroon beret. Yeah.
Correct. Sir, if you could also tell us, your first paratrooping experience, because you after that you would have gone for the paratrooping, your first paratrooping. So how was your first jump? So how was your complete experience in terms of how you were trained and the first time you looked out of the aircraft?
Right. Right. So I mean, it's a very, the most difficult thing is clearing your provision. And by the time you've cleared your provision, you've gone through already hell. in 3 months, right? Or 4 months or 5 months, how much of a time you take to clear that. For example, when I went for my para provision, we were total 4 people. 3 of them were from academy. I was from, coming from an infantry battalion, and only I got through. Not because the 3 of them got were not selected, they just couldn't make it. They couldn't last that time. One of them mentally gave up. One of them got physically injured. One of them, felt that he was not up to it, and somehow he was not very positive towards the whole thing. So I was the only one left at the end who was there for the complete 3 months, and I got through. Okay. So after that, they send you for a parachute jump course, which we call it as para basics. And that's a very professional course. It's because it's run between Indian Army paratrooper training school and Air Force. So there are thorough set of drills, processes which you have to go through, which is known as ground training. So you go through your ground training for good about 20 days, where there are a lot of simulations on which they test you, like how you are supposed to jump, what should be your body position, what can happen wrong, what can happen, totally, in terms of some, emergencies. How are you supposed to, do those drills? And then they take you finally for something known as the air experience, where first time they take you inside the AN-32, and they take you up in the air, and they open the ramp, and they try to give you that experience, that how does the outside world look from an aircraft. Because going in a civil aircraft like a jet airways and looking outside of the window is different, but when the half of the aeroplane completely opens up and you're looking outside like it's like a huge balcony, that's a different experience. So they give you this air experience, and then they bring you down, and then the second time, then they take you for the first jump. So the first jump is, of course, it's totally chaos. I mean, you are standing there hoping that everything will go right, and suddenly there are three lights: red, yellow, green. They say yellow on, that means you're about to come to your drop zone, and green means you're supposed to jump. So I actually till date don't remember whether I jumped or the aircraft moved itself or the Air Force person pushed me. So I always think that it's the third thing, and the Air Force, the my trainer or my from Air Force, he pushed me, and I'm thankful to him that he pushed me because that's how I went out of the aircraft. I think so.
Okay.
So it's only after your fifth jump you come to your senses. So the first 3 jumps you don't even remember what has happened. After the fourth jump, you start remembering, okay, now I jumped, the aircraft moved, I could see my parachute opening. Fifth, and slowly, the more you keep doing, right, the more it becomes like a known fear for you. And then it becomes a normal thing for you. And then it becomes like a regular, piece of cake for you. But however, you might have done 100 jumps, 200 jumps. It's a very risky thing to do, because anything can go wrong. Like I have one of my seniors who was a skydiver here in Skydive School, Pattaya. He has done more than 4,000 jumps. And finally, one of the jumps on Sunday, which is like a free fall jump, he got injured. And he got injured very badly. And he was like bedridden for almost, 2 years, had to go through a lot of treatment. So it is a very, it looks easy, but trust me, it's not easy, and it's very risky when something goes wrong. Okay. And doing it, para jumping for fun is different, just jumping, wearing your sneakers and a nice parachute. But para jumping in combat kind of an environment is the most riskiest thing you can do, because one, you are jumping out of a big plane which is not meant for actually paratrooping or skydiving.
Yeah.
Second is you're jumping with so much of load, your weapon, your ammunition, your rucksack. And third, you're jumping at night. So not none of the jumps will happen at daytime. The basic principle of parachute jumps or para dropping is that everything happens in pitch dark night. That's a moonless night normally, right? So it's most of your jumps which you do in Indian Army as a paratrooper, you do it at night, whether it's the exercise jumps, whether it's the practice jumps. So
Okay.
it's a very good experience. Yeah, good fun. Yeah.
Sir, you also told me, you have done scuba diving as well, right? So within your regiment. I think there, I have heard somewhere that you cannot be mastering the air, say paradropping, or basically becoming a combat free faller and also a say combat diver. Is that possible? Somebody can be both.
Yeah. They earlier, see, there were people who could do both.
Okay.
See, it all depends upon number of vacancies you have.
Okay.
So normally, as a paratrooper, you are supposed to specialize in couple of things and couple of geographies. Like, for example, you can specialize in combat free fall, which is like jumping about 25,000 feet with an oxygen cylinder, and uh, going through that complete practice of switching off or taking or opening your chute at 20,000 feet or so, and doing what is known as high altitude high opening. We call it HAHO jump, or doing something known as halo, high altitude low opening. So there are two. So that's one specialization you do, combat free fall. Then there is second specialization which you do is known as diving. So basically, you do a diving course in Cochin with Marine Commandos and deep sea divers of Navy, and that's a specialization which you can do as a paratrooper. Uh, so normally there are people who have done both. I know many of them, but again, these days, I think so. You get an option to do only one because there is shortfall of vacancies, because these are very specialized courses. I think so. The vacancies are not much, and if there are vacancies, also an officer also has to be free, right? Because all the battalions of parachute regiment are mostly engaged in some operational area. So that's why some of them specialize in CFF, some of them specialize in diving.
That makes sense. Sir, if you could, also tell us as a young captain, how was your, first combat experience within the parachute regiment?
Hmm. So see, combat experience is something not only as parachute regiment, even all the infantry battalions, anybody who has served in operational areas like Jammu and Kashmir or Northeast, they've gone through you know a combat experience, right? So a combat experience is a very risky thing, wherein you are either searching for the enemy or you have laid an ambush somewhere, or suddenly you are taken by surprise or ambushed by an enemy, right? So when that happens, again, the Indian Army gives you a lot of training in terms of different drills you have, what you follow. You have your weapon and ammunition with you, how to handle a weapon in combat scenarios, things like that. So the first combat experience which I had in JNK, it's all about how suddenly you receive a fire from someone, like, which is of course a militant, and you're completely taken by surprise because you're always training for it, but you're just waiting for that moment when it's going to really happen to you, right? And then you take your drills in terms of how you return fire, how you cross fire, and then most of it is happening at night. So that's where again your all the training which you do is tested. And you know so it's all about experience. So you might be a paratrooper, you might be in parachute regiment, you might have done years of training, but till the time you don't experience that, and then you experience it again and again and again, that's where you start becoming good at combat, where your sixth sense starts hinting at you that what is right to do and what is wrong to do, and uh, how to approach a certain scenario, whether it's you're trying to ambush a militant group or you're doing a search and cordon. So all that comes with experience. So of course, the first time you face it, your adrenaline is very high, and you are not that much in control because it's something which you're facing for the first time. But slowly, over a period of time and again doing it day in and day out, you build that capability where you're able to manage a situation like this in a very controlled way, and managing your troops also, and that too doing it at a very young age. because it's what's the age, when 21, 22, and imagine at that age, you're most of the people are in college, and they're just enjoying riding bikes and all, and here you are in a completely unknown territory, a difficult terrain, managing a team of 120 odd people, and experiencing such scenarios where, despite you don't have the experience, everyone is looking up to you again. Everybody is seeing, okay, what is the officer going to say, or what is Saab going to say, how is he going to react, and we will follow what he says, because it's taken, right? Everybody assumes that, oh, you got trained in academy and you are a lieutenant, so we have to look up to you. That's how Indian Army works. You have got through para provision, you're one of the toughest, you have worn a maroon beret, so you know it all. But combat is different. It's something which you build upon years and years of combating and gaining that experience. Yeah.
So if you could also tell us, when you go into combat, you go as a team, right? So as a young captain or lieutenant, when you go, you might not have the experience, but you have some kind of, drills and trainings. So how does, as a team, you will have a set of Havldar, Subedar, Majors and Subedar will be helping you out. So how does that teamwork happen at that combat experience? Has it ever happened to you where, you thought as a team we work and that's how it worked out for us?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't be a Rambo there, right? You're trained well, but you're not a Rambo or a Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the real combat doesn't happen like how it is shown in the movies. You don't know from where the fire is coming. It's pitch dark, and that's where, as an officer, what you can do is that you can always control the situation and manage your team. But at the end of the day, the people in your team are highly experienced. Somebody who is an Havaldar comes with about 12 to 14 years of work experience, and also a lot of operational experience of working in combat zones, whether it's JNK, Jammu and Kashmir, whether it's Northeast. So obviously they are very, they are the ones who guide you, in the sense, they are the ones who take some triggered actions also, because they know more than you. It's only you, after doing one tenure in Valley, come out rich. Valley means Kashmir. You come out with these experiences that, okay, this is how you're supposed to manage a difficult situation. Otherwise, it's all about team. It's all about your junior commissioned officer, Subedar Saab, or it's your Havaldar, or even your men, the men, like the soldiers, lance naik, they have so much. If somebody has done 2 tenures more than you in Kashmir, right, he definitely has more experience than you. You might have done lot of learning on in your precis of tactics and all, but you have to give due weightage to what they say, take their advice, understand what their earlier experiences were, and then take a decision. The decision is always going to be yours, but how you take that decision and how you take advice and take everybody's point of view is very important.
Got it. Sir, if you could also tell us, you have gone to so many combat. What was your favorite weapon?
See, there are a lot of favorite weapons. My favorite weapon, I always like the ever green and ever favorite of everyone, AK-47. That has been my favorite weapon, because whenever I used it, whether I maintained it well, or it was sometimes it went through some difficult situations, like totally in, it was in mud, and a lot of gravel, whatever it was, it never happened that my AK didn't fire in my 7 years working in the army. On top of it, there are other weapons also. Like I always loved firing the AGL. There's a weapon known as anti-grenade launcher. It's a black weapon, very sleek, and it's got a pump button where you press it together, and it just that weapon always fascinated me. Like how it fires it launches a grenade at such a long distance. Then I love firing a medium machine gun, because that tripod stand and the thump and the noise of a medium machine gun is something which really fascinated me. The other weapons I fired were ATGM missile, anti-tank guided missile, which was again a very sophisticated missile. Uh, but I think so. If I have to rate top three, which I really enjoyed, firing and really enjoyed using is the AK-47, followed by AGL, which fascinated me that how it kind of is so sophisticated to drop a grenade so far away, and that grenade is pretty potent. And third is the medium machine gun. So these are top three favorites of mine. Others are there, like some people say rocket launcher is very good, but I always found it as a you know mm, a good weapon to fire. But it's not a weapon which you can carry with you everywhere, and you can use it that freely. And then there are some other specialized weapons like Uzi and other rifle guns which we have, or but they're not. I didn't use them much, honestly. They were there always, but so it has to be AK-47. That's the
Okay.
favorite one.
Sir, there's one more thing that we have seen one of your photos where you spot a badge of Russian armed forces. So probably you
Yeah.
can tell us a story of how that happened. I think I've seen only you with that badge.
No, nothing like that. I mean, that batch got again. It's just got overhyped. That batch. Actually, Seven Para had done a joint exercise with Russian, special forces and Russian Airborne division, wherein once they had come to Agra, and we did a full training with them in Mahajan field firing ranges, where we did a airborne exercise with them, wherein in that exercise we even dropped tanks through using parachutes, PMPs, you know, and even Indian Army went to Russia, and we got trained there. So that was the complete battalion which went through that. I mean, even Gaurav Chaturvedi sir was the second in command during that training, and as part of undergoing that training, we all in Seven Para got that badge. That means we all are specialized to train. We are specialized to jump from Russian equipment and Russian aircrafts, and also we have trained with Russian army. Uh, so that's what the batch is all about. So a lot of people in Seven Para have it.
Okay. So my next question will be, you have served in Indian Armed Forces and even the Parachute Regiment. If I ask you any three life lessons that you have learned, which you currently use in your corporate or the civil world, any three life lessons?
Yeah, the three life lessons I learned, uh, you know, one is in terms of your planning. Army teaches you at a very young age that how you are supposed to plan your work. Because everything in army happens through a process. It's not just that you get up and you just start doing things. Like how you become an officer is a process. How you become a paratrooper is a process. How you complete a course like commandos is a process. How you are get trained to jump out of an aircraft is a process. So you prepare. So that's one thing which we call as planning. So I always plan out things in a very simple way, because I believe that making simple plans is more effective than doing plans which are just hanging in the air. So that is one thing which army has taught me. Always make clear cut simple plans which are achievable. Because if you don't achieve it, that means you are in a very terrible situation, right? Suppose I've gone for an operation, and if I've not planned it well, I've not achieved the plan, the outcome is that either I've had some casualty, that means I've lost some men or brothers, or it's that the I was not able to take full use of an opportunity. So planning is definitely one thing which I carry with me as a life lesson. Second is confidence. I am very confident, whether I'm speaking to any person, like if I'm speaking to a an owner of a billion-dollar company also, my confidence is I speak to him in the same way like how I'm speaking to you, right? Because army gives you that confidence, because at a very young age, army as an organization grooms you. It gives you all those requisite trainings which make you confident for life, right? And the last one which I've learned is being humble. you know I think, I don't know whether many people from army take this as a life lesson, but I've always taken it as a life lesson, because I always felt that uh, I'm really blessed, you know that at such a young age I joined army, when I was an officer, all the people, they respected me so much. Whether I deserved that respect, I didn't deserve that respect, because at the end of the day, I was 20 years old when I became a lieutenant. So at 20 years old, I was an army officer, right? So just because you cleared your SSB and you've done your training doesn't mean that everybody will respect you. But that's what army is all about. So I saw that everybody is so humble, despite, let's say, you asked me a question, how do you manage difficult situations with your team members, whether it's a combat situation? I manage it because everybody is so humble, and they give you that respect, and they give you such warm treatment despite you having zero experience, right? Because you're so I was always very humble in army also. I used to always uh, have a very good relationship with my men. I was always very, very cordial with them, very friendly with them. I never had any air about me that whether I am in Parachute Regiment, I'm doing well, or even after leaving army, I've worked in corporate, I've traveled to 35 plus countries, I've done so many businesses, been part of startups, but I've been very humble, and this humble trait came to me from being in the army, because you have such simple and lovely people in the army who come from different parts of India, and who are so humble and so nice. And that's one thing I learned. So these are the three things which are life lessons for me from the army.
That's nice, sir. So my final question to you would be, a lot of aspirants, defense aspirants would be watching us. So what would be your message to all of them who wants to join the armed forces? It can be either Army, Navy, or Air Force or Coast Guard, anything.
Yeah, my message to them is, one is, you would have seen that our conversation would have been definitely very different to the other interviews you have done. Because this is more practical, this is more about I'm talking to you in a very casual way, right? So my first advice to them is, be yourself. Don't try to be a Rambo, or don't try to be a Arnold Schwarzenegger, and think that if you have that kind of a attitude, army will take you. Or some people, they get too fascinated. They want to go for a SSB, and they want to portray themselves as Bhagat Singh. Don't have Be very, very practical. It's good to have your heroes, but it has to be a part of your personality, not that you become that. So a lot of you aspirants who want to join the defense forces, it's a very, very, very established organization. They have seen millions of us joining them, retiring, right? So they have a set process of how they look at their selection, how they look at various candidates. So you can't just go there and try to be a lot of people like try to show extra josh, try to be like, oh, I want to do this for my country. Yeah, everybody wants to do something for their country. That's why you're joining the army. Otherwise you have 10 other career options. Everybody knows that, right? So be very practical in your approach while you're trying to get into army. Second is also, think about it, that why do you want to join army? Because I've seen that a lot of people join army, but after 4 or 5 years, right, things start fading. They feel that this is not an easy organization to work with. The roles and responsibilities are very tough, and so they slowly start that complete high of why they wanted to join. The positivity starts going down. So if you are thinking that army is army or air force or navy is a great place to have fun and enjoy life, that's not the right career for you. I just want to give you that kind of a feeling. And the last is, be confident about your approach towards your examination or SSB preparation. I mean, you need to prepare well, and you need to ensure that you are being yourself there. Don't try to be a person who is an artificial person, or whose mind is flickering between OLQs, trying to understand what is a OLQ. There's nothing like a OLQ. There's nothing like an officer like quality. So that puts more stress on you, that, oh, these are OLQs, these are non OLQs. There's nothing. As I told you in the beginning, you just need to be a very practical, a very confident, and a very honest person who wants to join army. And why you join army is because you're passionate about this career. You are a team player. If you're not a team player, you can do nothing in army, right? And last thing being that, you know you want to do it lifelong. So you need to also have that perseverance with you, that can you do one thing lifelong. Now when we work in the corporate world, I see in 3 years people get bored. After 3 years they say, it's not fun, man, this job is same old job, I'm getting bored. So are you ready to do that job for rest of your life? If you're joining the army, you have to do that job for 30 years. So think about all this and then join the army. Don't just think that it's a very easy thing to join there and enjoy life, wear a nice uniform, just see places. That's not army is all about. Army is a very, very tough career option. And to do well in army is even more tough. You have to go through so many examinations, you have to prepare, you have to clear your young officers course with good gradings. You need to clear your staff college. You need to do so many things to be successful in the army. So it's a very difficult career option. So I hope the guys who are thinking about joining army, air force, or navy know what you're opting for. It's not going to be a piece of cake for you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, sir, for all the information and things that you have shared with us. And I hope a lot of candidates will be watching us, or the aspirants will be watching us, will gain some perspective about the armed forces and even how life within the Parachute Regiment looks like. So thanks a lot again, sir, for your time on this interview.
Hey, thanks, Akash. Thanks, and for giving me this opportunity. It was wonderful speaking to you, and my apologies once again. It took some time to schedule this, but I hope you got what you wanted. I mean, you wanted
Yes.
to hear my perspective, and I kind of spoke to you in a very frank and in a very practical way, and
Mhm.
that's what I want others to also follow. If
Yeah.
you want to clear your SSB, be very practical, be very confident, and be yourself. Don't try to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what is officer like qualities.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir, again. Have a
Take
nice
care.
day.
Bye,
Jai
bye,
Hind.
bye, 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 Jane. Bye.